Totals for week 19. Total expenses were $1,264 at 43 cents per mile. Total revenue was $6,430 at $2.21 per mile. That brought a net settlement to $5,166 at $1.78 per mile. Welcome back to Trucking the Seven Seas. This is episode number 70, and in this episode, we're going to go over week 18 and 19 of the Landstar Owner-Operator Program. For this episode, we get some pretty good loads in, so we end up having a lot of mileage and a very good 2 weeks. If you're new to this channel, welcome. I started this channel in order to show exactly what truck drivers make. We started as a company driver working for Knight Transportation, moved on to a lease operator working for Knight Transportation, and now we are an owner-operator working for Landstar. I show all of the loads I take, what the revenue is, what the expenses are, and what my net cash flow is, and I compile all of this information that I put into a spreadsheet that I share with you at the end of every video. So if this is a topic that interests you, follow the channel. So a quick announcement before we begin about the Landstar load board demos. I haven't been doing them lately because there's a huge time factor involved in those. So you notice I only post these about every 2 weeks now just to save myself the time because I'm pretty busy. And the Landstar load board, like the editing on that is extreme. So it just takes a lot of editing to actually pump those videos out, and I just haven't had the time. So I don't think I'm going to be doing those on the computer anymore. Now, what I might start doing is showing you the load board app on the phone, because I think the phone would be a lot easier to edit actually, because there's just less information that's constantly showing. So I might start doing that. But the reason why I haven't posted any load board demos is because they're just extremely difficult to edit and hide all that information. But I might start showing you it via just a simple phone search. So if you start seeing videos of that instead, just be aware that's what I'm doing. So that's why I haven't posted any of those, because they just take an extremely long time to edit. But with that being said, last episode we left off in Spartanburg, South Carolina. So we dropped the load at Spartanburg, South Carolina. And then what I ended up doing is I found a very good load paying out of Midland, Michigan. So it's from Midland, Michigan to La Mirada, California. So I found that load, and it was going to get picked up in a couple of days. So I booked that load in advance, but obviously that's kind of far away. So then I ended up needing to book a load up to Midland, Michigan. So we were in South Carolina, and then I needed to get to Midland, Michigan. And I needed to get there in like the next couple of days or whatever. I forget the exact timeline it went. So I just needed to book something to get up to Michigan. And what I've been discovering, if you look on like the heat map of Landstar and basically the country, it'll say that Atlanta is a good market. Like it'll say there's a ton of loads and they're coming out of there and they're just good loads. But I've been there a few times and I haven't seen that. So that's kind of interesting, just like where the loads are, because it's saying that Atlanta is a very good market, but I have not seen that when I've been there. So I keep going there, and then I have a hard time getting out of there. I went there, I think, a couple weeks ago, right? So I went there, tried to find a load out of there, couldn't find one, ended up doing the same exact thing where I booked a load in Memphis and then had to get to Memphis from Atlanta because I couldn't find anything in Atlanta. And that's exactly what happened here. So I went to Spartanburg, South Carolina, which is pretty close to Atlanta, and thinking, all right, then I'll just go to Atlanta after this load. Couldn't find anything good out of Atlanta. So I'm like, well, okay. So then I ended up booking a load in Midland, Michigan, going to La Mirada, California. But then obviously I needed to get to Michigan. So I ended up booking this load right here. I guess I'll just show it, right over here or something. So this one's going from Greensboro, North Carolina, which is pretty close, to Holland, Michigan, which is also pretty close to Midland. So I booked this load, and this was not a good load. I was just needing to get up to Midland, Michigan. So the pay was pretty bad. It only paid, what was it? I think it was only like, it's about $2 per mile actually, or something like that. So it wasn't a good load at all. I just needed to get to Michigan. But yeah, that's kind of a lesson there. Like if you're watching this and like you see the heat map on Landstar or whatever, and you think Atlanta is a good market, I'm really starting to discover it is not a good market. So just be aware of that. and just be prepared for that, I guess. So, anyways, we ended up booking this load from Greensboro, North Carolina to Holland, Michigan. Not a good load, but I needed to get to Michigan to grab the next load, which was a lot better. So let's go ahead and go to Michigan.
You're giving me wind and rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me high and dry.
Yeah, okay, so then booked that one, and as already mentioned, I was trying to get to Midland, Michigan, because I was grabbing a load from Midland, Michigan to La Mirada, California. La Mirada is Los Angeles, which is the best market in the United States, in my opinion, and I think categorically it is. So yeah, so I booked that load going to Michigan, and then I had this one booked in advance. So I booked this one from Midland, Michigan to La Mirada. This one paid a lot better. It was like $260 or something, $270 per mile. Before Landstar takes its cut, and it's going to Los Angeles. So I figured that was justifiable. Okay, I'll book this one crappy load from the south to Michigan, and then from Michigan I'll book this one going to Los Angeles for a good rate, and then I'll get out of Los Angeles for a fantastic rate. So that was my plan, and that's what I ended up doing. And I think in general it's fine. As long as the overall is pretty good. Obviously the load getting out of the south was not good. But if you're going to a good area, which then has a load going to a great area, I think that's fine. So that was what I did. So we ended up booking this load to La Mirada, California. So let's go.
Oh, well, I don't wanna jinx it, baby, and twist myself at the spine. Don't wanna
Okay, so went ahead and dropped that load in La Mirada. It's a decent load, 2,200 miles, something like that. And then obviously needed to get out of Los Angeles. So was looking around, and then I ended up calling this one number. It was a load going from Los Angeles to Cold Springs, Minnesota. Called it up, and talked with the guy a bit. Ask him, hey, gathering some information. It's nice in Los Angeles because you have a lot of leverage there, because there's just a lot of loads coming out of there. So like my attitude when I'm in Los Angeles is like, okay, I'm gonna look around, and I am not taking the first load because I know there's a lot of loads coming out of there. So I called this guy up, and I think I called a couple other numbers as well, just looking around a little bit, just biding my time. So called this guy up, said, hey, gather some load on it. He said, yeah, okay, it's going from Los Angeles to Cold Springs, Minnesota, which is Minneapolis basically. And he's like, yeah, it's a two-stopper, so you just stop in Los Angeles, and then you go like 5 miles down the road, you stop again. It was a hazmat load. It was paint or something like that, or I forget exactly. But it was a hazmat load, and I called him like, all right. And then he's like, hey, yeah, so do you want it? I'm like, I might call you back here in a bit. I'm looking around a little bit. He's like, yeah, okay. And so I hang up, and then this dude proceeds to call me about 6 times. And he's like, hey, man, do you want this load? Do you want this load? Do you want this load? I'm like, maybe. I don't know. There's plenty of loads there. I'll take whatever. I know I can get out of there, right? So he's like, he was really pushing me to take this load. I'm like, oh, okay, well. So I ended up, what did I do? I ended up asking, hey, okay, you want to juice it for me? And he's like, he give me the whole, yeah, sure, whatever. And I think I ended up getting about an extra $500 on this load. I think he added like $300 to my accessorials, which equates to about $500 extra on the overall, because if you remember, accessorials is not subject to the 35% Landstar cut. So it's closer to like $500 extra on this one. So, I was like hemming and hawing about it. It wasn't a bad load, period, end of story. It was okay, right? But I was in Los Angeles, and I was looking to get a really good load. So I'm like, hey, okay, fine. You want to put an extra, 300 on the accessorials or something like that? I can't. Yeah, it was 300 on the accessorials is what I asked for. And he was hemming and hawing. He's like, yeah, okay, So I finally did that. But yeah, this dude he was desperate. I think he must have had like 7 or 8 of these loads coming out of there. And he really needed some drivers, and it's Los Angeles, so there's a lot of loads coming out of there. There's a reason why I wanted to go there. So he's just like, he relented and did that. So I ended up saying, all right, I'll take this load. So it was going It should be up here. Sometimes if I forget to say I'm going to put it right here, it should be like right over here, I guess, or wherever I'm going to put it. So yeah, I ended up taking it. So it's 2-stopper, picked it up in Los Angeles, and then I picked it up again, like right down the road, like 5 miles or something like that. And then we went to Waconia, Minnesota, and after he juiced it, I think it paid like $283 per mile or something like that, and it was like an 1,800-mile load. So that's pretty good. And Minneapolis it's okay, right? It's a decent area. I got the sun coming in on me. Anyways, so that's what we ended up doing. So we grabbed this one from Los Angeles, and now we're headed to Cold Springs, Minnesota. Let's go.
Baby, it's just me, your body, and mine. Baby, you give me ice and fire. You're giving me wind and rain.
Okay, so we ended up dropping that load in Cold Springs, Minnesota, and then looking around trying to find something decent. It was a Friday when I dropped this load, so I dropped it on Friday, and then I had to kind of look around and scramble to find another load. So looking around, couldn't find anything too good, but then I ended up finding this load right here. This one's going from Waconia, Minnesota to Leetsdale, Pennsylvania. However, it's a multi-stopper, so there were 3 stops and then a delivery. So there was one stop in where was it actually? Yeah, okay. So there's one stop in Cedar Lake, Indiana, which is basically Chicago. Another stop in Columbus, Ohio. Another stop in Streetsboro, Ohio. And then final stop was in Leetsdale, Pennsylvania. So it was a multi-stopper, and it's okay. I mean, I had to find something over the weekend anyway, so it wasn't too bad, and it paid quite well. I think it was like $3.68 per mile before Landstar takes its cut, so that's good. So I ended up went ahead and just grabbed this one. So we're going from Waconia, Minnesota to Leetsdale, Pennsylvania, and stopping in Ohio and in Indiana. So let's do that.
Butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me here high and dry. Oh.
All right, so after we dropped the Leetsdale, Pennsylvania load, we then grabbed another one in basically Pittsburgh or somewhere in the surrounding area, and it was headed to Kalama, Washington. However, that Kalama, Washington load is not going to make this paycheck, so we're going to go ahead and get to the spreadsheet right now. Okay, in this episode, we're going to go ahead and cover week 18 and 19. So let's start with week 18. For week 18, we did 2 loads. In those 2 loads, we got 3,268 miles. We were paid a total of $5,379 for an average of $1.65 per mile. Landstar's cut was 70 cents per mile for $2,303. Fuel expenses were $1,715 at 52 cents per mile, and we did not have any maintenance expenses. Other expenses, workers' comp, $72, truck scans, $4, bobtail insurance, $34, license fees, $369, permits, $10.58, plates, $32, hotels, $192, tolls, $67, for a total of $416 at 13 cents per mile. Totals for week 18, total expenses were $2,132 at 65 cents per mile. Total revenue was $5,379 at $1.65 per mile. That brought our net settlement to $3,247 at 99 cents per mile. All right, caveats for week 18. Caveats are there aren't any. Yeah, pretty standard week. Pretty good week. Got some good mileage in, 3,200 miles. That's pretty good. Fuel expense was a little high, 52 cents per mile. That's quite high. I'm assuming that last week's running was somewhat on this week's paycheck, so I think that has something to do with it. So there's that. Other than that, yeah, no maintenance expenses. Hotels, I stayed in Barstow after with this La Mirada. I had to reset in Barstow, so obviously it was like 105 degrees outside, so I went ahead and got a hotel. So that's what that is about, and I think that's a worthy investment considering I would have had to idle my engine for like a day and a half straight. So yeah, I think that was totally fine. Added this column right here, truck payment. So a lot of you guys have been asking where the truck payment is, and I guess I'll just put it there to clarify that I don't have a truck payment. My truck is paid off, and yeah, so I put that in there just to clarify that the truck is paid off. So that's an added cell there, and I'm just going to keep that there just so people can see truck payment 0, and it says paid off right there. So here I'll bold it there. So there you go. Hopefully that clarifies that. I do not have a truck payment. Yeah, other than that, that's week 18, so let's go ahead and move on to week 19. For week 19, we did 2 loads. In those 2 loads, we got 2,908 miles. We were paid a total of $6,430 for an average of $2.21 per mile. Landstar's cut was $2,289 at 79 cents per mile. Fuel expense was $1,040 at 36 cents per mile, and again, we did not have any maintenance expenses. Other expenses: workers' comp, $72, truck scans, $4, bobtail insurance, $34, license fees, $369, permits, $10.58, plates, $32, tolls, $67, IFTA, $245, EOBR, $27, for a total of $224 at 8 cents per mile. Totals for week 19, total expenses were $1,264 at 43 cents per mile. Total revenue was $6,430 at $2.21 per mile. That brought our net settlement to $5,166 at $1.78 per mile. Total since starting the program, we have driven a total of 40,811 miles. Total expenses have been $35,927 for an average of 88 cents per mile, and that is my cost per mile. Total revenue is $71,584 at $1.75 per mile. That brings our total profit loss to $35,657 at 87 cents per mile. Averages and other information: average weekly paycheck is $1,890. Average weekly miles is 2,164. Total fuel costs are $19,400 at 48 cents per mile. Total maintenance cost is $6,711 at 16 cents per mile. Total other expenses is $9,816 at 24 cents per mile. If we kept this up for a 52-week period, we'd get $98,326 and drive a total of 112,000 miles. Landstar's cut has been $27,043 at 66 cents per mile. Total deadhead has been 2,486 miles at 6.09% of total mileage. We've been employed 132 days, or 19 weeks, taken 17 days off, 115 days on duty. Total loads is 31. Average load length is 1,316 miles. And I added this column right down here, guys. This is what I would have made if I had a $500 truck payment. So I figured I'd put this in. A lot of you guys are kind of curious about, the truck payment and all that. So I decided to add a few more columns and information in there. So if I did have a $500 a week truck payment, I would have made $26,228 at 64 cents per mile, rather than the $35,000 at 87 cents per mile. So I thought you guys would find that column pretty interesting. I did try to put it up here, kind of closer to all this. The problem is it interferes with some of the calculations, so I couldn't put it over here. So I might try to find a way later, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. So that's why that is not over there. It's down here instead. And I figured you guys would find that, to be useful information. So there you go. 64 cents per mile if you have a truck payment. Okay, so caveats for week 19. Once again, there really aren't any. The only caveat is it was a really good week. So I had this Waconia load to Leedsdale load that was a multi-stopper that paid like $3 per mile. And then I had this Los Angeles load to Cold Springs, which paid like $2.80 per mile. So those were all both really good loads. After Landstar takes this cut, it goes down to, well, exactly $3 per mile, actually, now that I'm looking at it, yeah. So I had very good week this week, $6,400 in revenue. That's quite good. Almost 3,000 miles. Very low fuel expense. I'm assuming some of the fuel expense was up here as well on last week, week 18 that is, so that fuel expense is quite low. No maintenance expenses again, so that's been helping out. So we're looking good there. And other than that, I had IFTA, recalculate the IFTA, so I had to pay a little bit there. EOBR, had that. That's about it. No hotel that week. I just stayed in the truck because it was fairly cool in Minnesota, so didn't do anything there. And that's about it. That's the best week so far. I should note, $5,100. That is the best week so far. $1.78 per mile. That's take home. That's pure take home right there. Not including taxes. I don't go over taxes because everybody's taxes are different, and I'm not gonna try to figure that one out. So yeah, I don't go over taxes if anybody was curious here. So that's about it. But yeah, that's a fantastic week and the best week so far, and frankly, that might be the best week for a long time coming because it's going to be hard to beat that. Yeah. So there's that. So there's week 18 and 19, and then the overall is looking decent. It's looking okay. Cost per mile is 88 cents per mile. That's pretty good, I would say. Booking those for $2.57 per mile before Landstar takes its cut. My goal is $2.50, so we're doing fine there as well. Total revenue $1.75. Okay, that's what I get after Landstar takes its cut. So there's that. Total profit loss has been 87 cents per mile, and I think I said last week that I thought my total profit loss would be about 85 to 90 cents per mile after everything was said and done, and that's where we're at. So that's where we're at. I think I've been saying my total cents per mile profit would be about 87 cents per mile for a while now, or 85 to 90 cents per mile for a while now, and we're at it right now. And I think I still believe that's about where it's going to stay. And I think that's pretty much what we're looking at, is about 85 to 90 cents per mile. So there's where we're at. My maintenance expenses have finally come down to earth. So when I first started, for those of you who are new, I ended up having like 5 or 6 maintenance issues, just bam, 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 right in a row. And I think this maintenance expense was at one point up to like 30 cents per mile. I knew it wasn't going to stay there, but it was just, bam, 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 like 4 things in a row. That cost me quite a bit. But right now we're at 16 cents per mile. I think it'll probably go down to between 10 and 15 cents per mile. But if it stays at 16 cents per mile, well, that's not awful. It's okay. So there's that, and that's finally come down to earth. It was sky high for the first couple of months, but now it's a lot more reasonable, I would say. So we're looking okay there. So yeah, that's helping me out quite a bit. One thing that you guys are commenting on is my fuel cost per mile. 48 cents per mile. My truck gets 7.5 miles per gallon, so let's just do a quick math here. It's 7.5 miles per gallon according to my dash. I haven't been keeping like a logbook or anything to figure out if that dash is exactly accurate. I would assume it's pretty close, right? So that's what I'm going off of. But yeah, so that's what we're going to go off of. So let's do equals 7.5 times that. Okay, so it looks like I'm paying $3.57 per mile, give or take, in fuel costs, which some of you guys have been commenting that's kind of high. And now that I'm looking at it, I kind of agree. I think I should probably do a little bit better calculation of where I'm fueling up. I have been looking, like Landstar has a little cheat sheet, like you can see where the cheapest fuel is around the country. And I get big discounts. Landstar has huge discounts, by the way, on fuel. So you get like, you fuel about at the big 3 anyway. So like at Love's, Flying J, TA, Petro, Pilot, you tend to get like 60 cents per mile off or something like that at those places. So, if it's like, $4 per gallon, I get it for like $3.40 or whatever. But I'm still looking at this, and I think I tend to agree that my fuel cost per mile is pretty high right now. That's like a West Coast cost per mile, and I'm kind of running East Coast in the Midwest as well. So I think you guys are right. My fuel cost is kind of high. I think maybe I need to pick things a little better. That would help a little bit. I don't think I'm particularly picking bad. I am looking at where the cheapest fuel is, give or take. I'm not like scientific about it. If it's like 1 or 2 cents off here, so be it. That's where we're at. I think it could be the biggest issue is if I'm on like a 75 mile an hour freeway, I tend to go about 70, 75. So maybe slowing it down would be a good choice here. I'm not sure, so I gotta maybe get a better strategy there. But I am thinking, maybe I gotta pay a little bit more attention to my fuel costs. So you guys are probably correct there. And as far as the total pay for a year, well, we're almost at 6 figures, so that's kind of cool. I think next week, if it's a decent week, we'll go ahead and that'll hit the 6-figure mark, which is pretty cool. So that's nice, very close, $1,700 away. So let's see, maybe I guess 2 weeks from now, I'm betting that'll be 6 figures. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. So yeah, just talk about this down here. If you had a truck payment, $500 a week truck payment, you'd only be making 64 cents per mile. That's not very good. I would say, you're probably better off as a company driver. Well, you're definitely better off as a company driver. Now, I suppose, yeah, you'd be making about the same as a company driver and you'd be paying down a truck. So there is something to be said on that. And I guess if you're working and you're making 64 cents per mile in this market, when the market improves, you'll be in a good spot. But that's what you would make if you did have a truck payment of $500 per week. I'd probably hold off if I were you. If you had that truck payment, I don't think it'd particularly be worth it. So yeah, there's that, and yeah, there's that. Just more information for you guys. And I think if you're thinking about coming in and you have a truck payment, I would tend to hold off if I were you. That would just be me. So okay, so there's week 18 and 19, very good weeks, and now we're really starting to see we've got a large amount of data, so you can really start to see what you're making at Landstar, or at least what I'm making at Landstar, and you can kind of see, hey, maybe gives you a better idea. I'm not bragging about this. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm just simply posting the numbers so you guys can make a more educated decision if you ever come to Landstar or previously Knight Transportation wanted to try their lease program or a company driver or whatever. Again, my thing here is just transparency. I'm just showing what a truck driver makes, and I really hope you guys are getting something from this. If you're interested in this spreadsheet or any of the other spreadsheets I've done in the past, you can download them. They're in the About section below. Just open them, and then you hit File, Download, and then you can download them to a Microsoft Excel sheet, and then you can use them however you please. But that will do it for the trucking version portion of this video, and now we're going to go ahead and move on to the weight loss portion of this video. So if you're just interested in truck driving, well, then this next portion isn't really relevant, and I'll see you in the next episode. But let's go ahead and move on to the food log. Okay, quick overview. Trying to lose some weight. Figured I'd post it online to see maybe you guys can get something from it. It's not like rocket science what I'm doing. I'm just keeping track of everything I'm eating and approximate calorie intake and trying to cut some weight. My goal was 30 pounds by November 1st, but we're not looking too good on that. If I'm being honest with myself. So yeah, so it's just a food log. It goes all the way to like July. So if I open it all the way up, it'll go to July 10th is when I started. So we're at about a month and a half. We've been at it. And so far, keeping track of everything is just all of the calories approximately. There's totals right there. Okay, yeah, so yeah, that's it. And then you see down here the totals for all of this information here. It compiles it. So total calories consumed, total calories burned, estimated calories burned is 2,500 per day. And then it just minuses it and kind of sees where we're at. So yeah, last couple weeks, have been great. So what I'm discovering is, okay, when I have a day off, I just, I try to shoot for about 2,500 calories, which you can kind of see, past few days I've had off. So the reason why, what I'm realizing is like when I have a day off, it's not necessarily like a reset. Like yesterday, I dropped this load at like 8 a.m. and then I needed to take a reset, but I had to activate my clock. So I'm effectively getting 2 days off. And then this day also was kind of the same thing where I wasn't able to get very far, so I had to stop because the load was delivered the next morning. So I'm discovering that I'm actually taking off more days than I originally thought, which is meaning I'm kind of, according to my strategy, I'm just like not losing weight those days in general. So that is a bit of a problem. I'm starting to realize, and we'll see where we're at in a couple of weeks, but I might have to adjust fire on my strategy a little bit because there's more days off. You can kind of see them right there. It's only about roughly half the time I'm actually just like kind of on the road pounding pavement. So there's something to be said for that. Maybe I might have to adjust fire a little bit. But anyways, so far, according to the calculations here, I've burned 28,000 calories and lost 8.16 pounds and consumed an average of 1,900 calories per day. That's the average right there. And if I'm burning about 2,500 calories per day, that's 600 calories per day, give or take. So that is the food log. And okay, that's not quite where I want it to be. And I might have to adjust fire on these days off because I think this could be sort of my problem here, where I'm just consuming 2,500 calories when I'm when I'm not driving, and there's a lot of days where I'm effectively not driving, and I'm starting to realize that could be a problem. So, okay, then we're going to move on to the weight portion of everything. So I've been weighing myself pretty much every day, give or take. Some days I miss, and just keep track of it. So it started at 193 pounds right there. and been dropping. This I had the cabs course, if you remember, where I was just like sitting around for like 3 or 4 days at a cabs course, not doing anything. So that was kind of an interesting spike there. I didn't necessarily overconsume, but man, did it kind of instantaneously. But I said it before, I'm not 21 anymore. Like if I eat even a little bit, it's instant. So that's interesting. So that went by, and then I started, I was ticking down quite well here. And then in the last 3 days, and you kind of saw it on the log right here, the last 3 days right there are right here as well. So you can see I was at 158, 185, and then here we go, last 3 days, boom. Like it's almost instantaneous when I do that. So that's interesting right there, how it just spiked up. If I didn't have that spike up, I'd be actually looking pretty good, right? I'd be 185. Well, yeah, it's right there, 185. So I'd be, I was at 185. Whoops. And then took a few days off, and then boom, kind of instantly back up. This did shoot me back up to 5.6, which is actually like the exact same weight as last time. Now, I'm not going to immediately change strategies right now. So far, this is not going as fast as I wanted to. And these last couple days, I mean, I don't think that's necessarily accurate. That could be just like my stomach was full and I was hydrated. So obviously the last 2 days kind of spiked everything up right there. But I think I'm doing, if I didn't do that and I keep at it, I think I'll be okay. We'll see. I'm going to keep at it for another 2 weeks, basically. And if nothing changes and I'm still not making the progress that I want to make, then I'm going to have to adjust fire on it. And I think the big ways I could adjust fire, fasting. I haven't been doing that very well. Well, fasting is one of the things I am going to start doing better. I try not to eat until the end of the day when I'm driving, but I am discovering that that's pretty brutal. I got to be honest. Now, there's this thing called discipline, right? You just be more disciplined and you just do it anyway, even though it hurts. And yes, that is the way to go. So fasting is going to be how I'm going to start. That's something I need to start doing better right now. So I'm going to start fasting again and keep at it like much better. But that's the number one thing I can do right now. And then in the future, if this keeps happening, these days off keep getting in the way, then I might have to adjust what I do on my days off as well. So that's the strategy right now. And if you minus this right here, these last 2 days, then we're down to 7.6. We've lost 7.6 pounds, and that would be about in line with what I'm trying to go with. I think I would lose like 20 some pounds by November 1st. So that would be better. So I'm not going to let this affect me too much right now, and we're going to give it 2 more weeks and see where it goes. I don't think it's a good strategy to like, oh, I had a couple bad days where it doesn't look like I'm losing weight and then just immediately change my entire strategy. I don't think that's a good idea. So I'm not going to do that, but if things don't have some progression in the next 2 weeks, we're going to adjust fires. But in the meantime, I'm going to start fasting better and look at those days off. So we'll see what happens there. Okay, yeah, but that does it for the weight loss portion and the profit loss portion. So again, if you want the spreadsheet, just hit file download and you can download it as well. Hope you get something out of this. And yeah, that'll pretty much do it for this episode. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.
Jinx it, baby. Let's not get ahead of my time. Oh, but I don't wanna miss you, baby.